So we'll continue with government roles. So today we want to talk about government's macroeconomic aims. So what are the aims of government? What do government want to achieve? That is what we're talking about here. What government of this country, what do they want to achieve? So yeah, they said the main government aims for economic growth, low unemployment, price stability, balance of payment stability, and redistribution of income. A government can operate a range of policy measures to achieve these aims, and it is judged on their success or otherwise. Performance of the economy, however, is influenced not just by government policies in the market, not just by government policies in the market that is becoming increasingly global. One economy's macroeconomic performance is being affected more and more by the dynamics of the economies. So there's government aims, which is what government wants to achieve in that economy, within that economy. One of the government's aims is economic growth, which we're going to talk about now. Before we go there, we tell you government also wants to ensure that unemployment reduces in the country. Government wants to ensure that there is no persistent rise in prices of goods and services. Inflation is reduced. Government wants to ensure that balance of payment is stable. And the last thing is redistribution of income. Government wants to ensure that the gap between the rich and the poor reduces. These are all what we call government macroeconomic objectives. So we start with economic growth. So when we talk about economic growth, we're talking about output within an economy, the GDP of an economy. So here they say, when an economy experiences economic growth, there's an increase in its output in the short run. This is sometimes referred to as actual economic growth. In the long run, for an economy to sustain its growth, the productive potential of the economy has to be increased. Such an increase can be achieved as a result of a rise in the quantity and quality of factors of production. There is actual economic growth, which is the output that has increased at a short period of time. But for a country, for an economy to sustain that economic growth, it needs to reach potential economic growth. There needs to be potential economic growth. And that would come on the quality and the quantity of the factors of production. Because we can't talk about output in an economy without talking about the factors input. So those outputs are based on the processing of the output or the inputs, land, labor, capital, and enterprise. So the land, labor, capital, and enterprise are used for the output. But for us to reach the highest, to maintain that result, we need to increase or improve in quality and quantity of the factors of production. That is what they are saying there. Are you with me?
Yes.
So the difference between the actual and the potential economic growth can be shown on the production possibility curve. So the movement from point A to point B represents an actual economic growth. More capital and consumer goods are made. The shift outward of the production possibility curve from YY to ZZ represents potential economic growth. The economy is capable of producing more. So look at what we have here. There's movement from YY to ZZ here. So that means the economy is not still reaching its potential. So for the economy to reach its potential to produce at ZZ, it needs to improve its quality and quantity. So in analyzing economic growth and other macroeconomic objectives or issues, economists also make use of aggregate demand and aggregate supply diagram. So before we go into that, look at the potential, the production possibility curve we have here. The economy is still producing below its capacity. It's producing, yes.
Yes.
It's producing at YY, which is fine. But for it to reach its potential, because this is a production possibility curve, which means that the economy can still produce at ZZ. But to reach there, it needs to increase the value or improve its value, the quality and the quantity of factors of production. So they said we can also analyze economic growth through aggregate demand and aggregate supply. So for aggregate demand, which is what the total demand of products at a given price within an economy, that's aggregate demand. The total of all demand within an economy, that is aggregate demand. So here we said for aggregate demand, so here it's the total of demands of a country product at a given price level. It is consumption plus investment plus government expenditure plus difference between export and import. Do you get what I'm saying here?
Yes. That's the formula.
That's the formula.
Yes.
C plus I plus G plus X minus N. So this is the spending by household on goods and investment. We talk about investment, government spending, public sector on capital goods. So here, consumption. When we talk about consumption, we're talking about from consumers. Then we have investments, spending from households on goods and services. This is what they spend on. Then we have government spending. That means they provide public goods.
Yes.
And the last one is the net exports, which is the difference between export and import. So a fall in the country's price level causes an extension in aggregate demand. This is because households and firms would have more purchasing power, and because it increases the international competitiveness of country's products. So if the country's price level falls, it means the income level, the purchasing power of consumers in that economy would increase. Exactly. So that will increase the demand in that economy. So as price level falls, the aggregate demand tends to increase in any economy. Do you get the point they're making there? Yes. So if aggregate demand increases, that means purchasing power of household has increased. So what are the causes of a shift in the aggregate demand? So let's see here. They said there are a number of causes of an increase in aggregate demand and a shift to the right of the AD curve. This includes an increase in population, or a cut in the rate of interest, a lower exchange rate, and greater confidence. Not only price. A price will cause a movement in the aggregate demand curve. Yes. But other factors would lead to a shift in the AD curve rightward. So a shift in the AD curve rightward would be as a result of increase in population. So if the population increases, demand in such economy would increase. That's the first one. Two, the rate of interest. If the rate of interest falls, borrowing becomes cheaper. That means households will be able to borrow more than they can spend. The third point is a lower exchange rate. If the exchange rate is low, it means imports would increase. Sorry, exports would increase in that economy.
The low exchange rate.
Yeah. Because the prices of your goods and services become cheaper for foreign businesses. So they'll buy more from your country. So demand for goods and services in your country would rise. Do you get that? Yes. And greater confidence. That means you believe that in the future you're going to earn more money in the future. That could increase the demand for goods and services. Is it clear? Yes. So these are the reasons why we have a movement in the aggregate demand curve or a shift in the aggregate demand curve. A movement in the aggregate demand curve will be as a result of a fall in the price of goods and services in that economy.
Or an increase in the population.
That is a shift in the aggregate demand curve.
That's a shift. The movement is like
the price. Clear. Yes. So go to aggregate supply. Aggregate supply is the amount of goods and services that domestic firms are willing and able to sell at a given price level. So aggregate supply is the total of all supply within an economy at a given price and time. Clear, right? Yes. Okay. So aggregate supply is perfectly elastic if the economy has a significant number of unemployed resources, as then more can be produced without a contingent rise in cost of production and prices. It says aggregate supply is perfectly elastic if the economy has a significant number of unemployed resources. That means the aggregate demand could be elastic if the economy has not fully utilized its resources. It means that there are still resources to be used. So that means there's tendency for an increase in supply in that economy. That is the point I'm making there. I think it's clear. Yes. So the curve becomes, as then more can be produced without, the curve becomes more inelastic as the economy approaches full employment. Since then, the firms will be competing for resources, and this will push up their cost, and as a result, the price level. As a result of the price level, at full employment of resources, aggregate supply becomes perfectly inelastic. Since at this point, a further increase in output is not possible. Aggregate supply will increase and AS curve will shift to the right if cost of production fall and if the quantity or quality of resources increases. So let's really talk about aggregate supply. We said aggregate supply is the total of supplies in the economy. at a given price level. Aggregate supply is elastic only if resources are not fully employed. But as soon as resources reach the peak of employment, it means supply becomes inelastic, because at that point in time, there are no resources left to produce goods and services.
Yes.
Firms will start jostling, fighting for resources. At that point in time, the cost of production would increase.
Yeah.
But for the aggregate supply curve to shift rightward, it would have meant that the cost of production has fallen or resources has increased in terms of supply.
It shifts from to right.
Yeah, to shift rightward, it means the cost of production for firms has reduced,
Cost will be less.
or the exploration of raw materials, the discovery of new raw materials.
Yes.
So that could also increase aggregate supply. Is it clear?
Yes. Also, yeah.
So changes in the AD and AS affect the macroeconomy. So this figure shows economic growth of, okay, let's see. So look at what we have here. We have 2.52. Look at 25.1, 25.2. That's the actual economic growth. Yeah, our aggregate demand is shifting from AD to AD1. That's actual. It does not affect the aggregate supply here.
Yes.
Then what would have happened to income? Income level would have shifted. For the aggregate demand to shift rightward from AD to AD1, it would have meant that the level of income would have shifted from Y to Y1. I think that is clear.
Yes.
So the second one is the potential economic growth. Here we're talking about that time where we have added more value or improvements to our factors of production. So at that point in time, the real GDP will increase. Our aggregate supply would also increase. Because output would have increased.
Mhm.
Did you get the second graph? The second graph is talking about potential economic growth,
That's
which
right.
means output would have increased. For output to increase, it would have meant that we have improved the quantity and the quality of the factors of production. That's the second point. The third one, from P to P1. What would have caused P to P1 to happen? It would have, for aggregate demand to increase, for aggregate supply to shift rightward from AS to AS1, it would have meant that cost of goods or cost of production would have fallen in that economy, or more resources are available. That is the only time the price will fall from P to P1. Are you with me?
No, the last one.
Yeah. They said potential economic growth causing a rise in national output. If the economy has to grow, if there's an increase in economic growth, that there's an economic growth or increase in the national output, it will be one, based on the fact that there are more resources available to produce for firms. That would shift the aggregate supply curve rightward from AS to AS1. As a result of that, the price level would fall from P to P1. And more output within the economy would increase the level of income, because more people would have jobs. Firms will have more revenue. So the income level will shift rightward or expand from Y to Y1. So for potential economic causing a rise in national output, three things must happen. The income level must increase, prices must fall, and cost of production must reduce. This is the only way firms will be able to increase their aggregate supply. Will be able to increase their supply, and the total supply in the economy would also increase. That is the aggregate supply. Is it clear?
Yes.
So we go to the reasons why government aims for economic growth. If there's economic growth, government wants to achieve economic growth because producing more goods and services can raise people's living standard. So one of the reasons why government would want to increase or aim for economic growth is that with economic growth, the living standard would improve.
Yes.
More goods and services will be produced in the economy. And if that happens, it will transform people's life, because they will be able to buy as much as they want to, and it will be affordable. Do you get it?
Yes.
That's the first thing. It said economic growth can also help a government achieve its other economic aims. As output increases, employment is likely to rise. If output increases to match higher demand, an upward pressure on the price level can be avoided. A country's trade position may be improved if some of the extra output is exported. Some of the poor may gain jobs and some may be helped by extra tax revenue generated. So another reason why government would aim at economic growth is that it could also help other government objectives to be achieved. If the economy is growing, it means people would likely get jobs. Yes or no?
Yes.
That would reduce unemployment, isn't it?
Yes.
That would also increase government taxes on the wealthy people. That could also reduce the gap between the rich and the poor.
Yes.
Are you getting it?
Yes.
So economic growth could lead to government achieving other macroeconomic objectives. That is another reason why government must aim at economic growth. The first one is it helps to improve the standard of living because more goods and services will be produced due to output increase. The second one is that if government is able to achieve economic growth, it will also reflect positively in achieving other macroeconomic objectives. I think it's clear.
Yes.
Now go to the criteria. Go to the criteria that government sets for economic growth. So here they said, determinants of a country's possible economic growth rate is its level of output in relation to its current maximum possible output and its growth or unproductive capacity. If, for instance, the economy is going at 2% below its maximum possible output, its productive capacity is expected to increase by 3% this year. Its possible economic growth rate is this. Well, let me just explain what they wrote here. If government has to decide if the economy is growing or not, well, the first thing they need to check is the rate of output. If the rate of output is high in relation to the demand in the economy, then it's fine. So the next thing government will check is the capacity they have. Do they have the maximum capacity to grow for their productivity? So government would put these things into consideration when they have to encourage or ensure that there's economic growth. They think about if this growth is going to happen, do we have demand for this growth? Do we have the capacity for this growth? We need to check. Do you understand what I'm saying here?
Yes.
So before government will aim at economic growth, they have to check if the demand in the economy would fit in. If not, maybe export will do it. So these are the criteria government will put into consideration when they are determining or when they want to talk about economic growth. Is it clear?
Yes.
Do you understand what I'm talking about?
Yes.
We talked about reasons why government would aim at economic growth. We talked about economic growth. And now we're talking about the criteria that government will put into consideration when it wants to aim at economic growth. And it is if increasing output will help with the demand of the economy. If not, do they have demand from outside of the country? Because if we don't need more, where do we put them? It means demand must come from outside of the country, export.
Yes.
And also the capacity. Do they have the capacity for production? Now, the second government aim is low unemployment. Are you there?
Yes.
So most governments try to achieve as low a level and rate of unemployment as possible. This is sometimes expressed as full employment. Those people who are willing and able to work at the going wage rate can find employment. Of course, not everyone wants to work or is able to work. These people are not in the labor force. They are said to be economically inactive and are dependent on those in the labor force. They include children and retired, those engaged in full education, homemakers, and those who are too sick or disabled to work. Those who are in work are unemployed but actively seeking work from the labor force and are said to be economically active. So low unemployment can also be achieved. But when we talk about low unemployment, we're talking about full employment. So that's another government's aim. So how do we know that people want jobs? Some people don't want to work. Irrespective of how many jobs are available, they don't want to work. So we see them as economically inactive. Not only those that don't want to work are economically inactive, those children are economically inactive, retired people are economically inactive, disabled people are economically inactive. So these people, there's nothing you could do. They add up to government expenditure.
Yes.
Do you get it?
Yes.
But those that are willing, wanting to work, but they can't still find job, will be considered as economically active. Because when they see a job, they will do. You understand the difference between economically inactive and economically active?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So go to the unemployment rate. The formula for unemployment rate is unemployment multiplied by 100 divided by the labor force. Are you with me?
Yes.
The labor force are the total number of people that are in the working age. So, okay. So that's the formula for that. It said, so if 5 million people are unemployed out of the labor force of 40 million, the unemployment rate is 5 million over 40 million multiplied by 20, multiplied by 100, sorry. I think that is clear.
Yes.
Then go to the reason why government aim for low unemployment. Why would government wants to aim for low unemployment? Why would government want to achieve low unemployment? Number one, unemployment is a waste of resources. When people are unemployed, it means they are not useful. They are wasting. And that would reduce the potential capacity of the economy. So it's a waste of resources. Those unemployed can suffer a number of disadvantages, including low income, government tax revenue. Low income and government tax revenue may have to be spent supporting the unemployed. So the reason why government would still want to ensure that people have jobs or unemployment is reduced is that, like I told you earlier, they add up to government expenditure, unemployment benefits. Government has to pay. Taxes will be reduced for government because some people don't have jobs. Do you understand?
Yes.
What are the criteria government will put into consideration when they want to set unemployment as an objective? Most governments and economists think that it is not possible to achieve 0% of unemployment. This is because they think that even in a strong economy, with demand for labor equaling the supply of labor, there will always be some workers changing jobs and being unemployed for some short period of time. So there's no way government wants to have 100% unemployment because there will always be what we call temporary unemployment. Do you know what temporary unemployment is?
Yes.
What is temporary unemployment?
Temporary employment. Right?
Temporary unemployment.
They never get employed. They don't want to employ.
No, temporary.
Short run, like.
No.
What is it?
When we talk about temporary unemployment, it means, hold on please. When we talk about temporary unemployment comes when the rate at which you are changing job. The point is this first. They said it is difficult for government to have unemployment at 0% because people will switch, will change job. Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. In the course of changing job, they become temporarily unemployed. So that brings us to what temporary unemployment is. Temporary unemployment is that time, it's the distance or the time frame with which an individual leaves a job seeking for a new job. So I stopped working right now. I'm looking for a new job. So the time frame at which I left this job and looking for a new job makes me to be temporarily unemployed. I am not fully unemployed, but I'm temporarily unemployed. That is temporary unemployment.
Yes.
So people switching from one job to seek for another job.
Yes.
Is it clear?
Yes.
So we'll continue with now the criteria government will set. When government wants to set unemployment, there are criteria that they put into consideration. So it's difficult for government to automatically erase unemployment. They will try, but one of the reasons why it's difficult is because people will change jobs from one job to another, even if it's not permanent, temporarily they will change. So that's one reason there. So that's about that. So government have to put into consideration the rate at which people will change job. That's all it needs to talk about. I think it's clear.
Yes.
So go to price stability. So when we talk about price stability, we're talking about inflation. So another achievement, another aim of government is macroeconomic objective is to make price affordable and not fluctuating every now and then. So it's a price stability means that the price level in the economy is not changing significantly over time. The price of some products may be falling while the price of others may be rising. But generally, the amount households are paying for the products they are buying is relatively stable. So government aims at price stability because if prices are stable, it also improves the lifestyle of people. So, yeah, without inflation, businesses will not make profit because they have to inflate prices. But they don't have to increase price every now and then. So this is what government would really work on. I think that is clear.
Yes.
So what are the reasons why government would aim at price stability? Here are the words. Government aim for price stability because it ensures greater economic certainty and prevents the country's product from losing international competitiveness. If prices are high in an economy, locally or internationally, goods won't be affordable for households. Yes or no?
Yes.
As a result of that, your exports would fall. Countries would not want to do business with you because the price of goods from your country is high. That's not the only reason why government wants to ensure that there's price stability. The other reason is that with price stability, it gives people certainty about the future. So they are certain that prices will not rise in the future. But if prices continue to rise every now and then, this brings about speculations. Do you understand?
Yes.
So people would not have that assurance that things will get better. What will come to the mind is that next week the price will change. Oh, every month they change prices. Oh, every 2 weeks prices change. So with price stability, it gives households certainty and also increases competitiveness of countries internationally. It increases your export. Is it clear? So firms will not, okay, here they said, if firms, households, and workers have an idea about future level of prices, they can plan with greater confidence. It also means that they will not act in a way that will cause prices to rise in the future. Firms do not raise their prices because they expect their costs to be higher. Households will not bring forward purchases for fear that items will be more expensive in the future, and workers will not press for wage increase just to maintain their real disposable income. If prices are stable, it gives firms assurance, it gives workers assurance, it gives household assurance. In which respect? For firms, if prices are stable, it means firms will not be thinking about high cost of production in the future, which means they won't need to act in a way that would increase their cost of production because they know the prices of their raw materials will not increase in the future.
Yes.
For firms, or that is for firms. For workers, they won't need to press for wage increase to be able to maintain their disposable income. They wouldn't need to do that. And for households, they won't need to forward their purchases, buy so much now because prices would increase in the future. Because when you buy so much now, the product becomes scarce. Now that will increase the price. So with stability in price, with price stability, firms, households, workers would not act in a way to increase price now. Because if workers press for wage increase, it increases the cost of employment for firms. They want to meet up by increasing the price of the product. If firms believe that the cost of their product or the cost of raw materials will increase in the future, they want to buy it. As a result, raw materials become scarce in the market. Prices will rise. If households believe that prices will rise in the future, they want to purchase right now. They want to purchase as much as what they don't even need. As a result, goods become scarce in the market. Prices will rise. So these are the reasons why government wants price stability. Is it clear?
Yes.
Then now the criteria that government set for inflation. In seeking to achieve price stability, most governments are not aiming for a zero change price. Some government, for instance, have a set of target of inflation. Normally, a good inflation should be at 2%. At 2%. Should be more than 2%.
Yes.
So other have rather higher inflation rates. They do not aim for unchanged prices for two main reasons. One is that measures of inflation tend to overstate rises in prices. A price index, for instance, might indicate that the general price level has risen by 1%, but in practice, prices might not have changed and might have even fallen slightly. So inflation rates, there's no way businesses will not inflate price. I told you earlier. If they don't inflate price, they won't have incentive to increase. They won't have incentive to produce goods. But we have to check the price index. So with the price index, it talks about the market price of a basket of food. So the total market price, the total basket of food price might rise, but does not mean that items in that basket of food each item have increased their price. No. I get what I'm saying. There's a basket for food, which includes your goods, services, whatever we buy. But in generally, the price level there might be inflation rate on one of those items, not all.
Yes.
So when government is checking, government will try to see that the price index is a reflection of the food basket.
Yes, yes,
Do you understand? Yes. So maybe it's important to increase the price of one product based on maybe there's an increase in the cost of production for that product. That would have changed the price of the food basket. But it doesn't mean that all the food baskets, all the items in that food basket has increased their price or has price increase. Do you understand what I'm saying? Yes. So, yes, the price rises can also hide improvements in products. It can be cost $100 more this year than last year, but it may be incorporated a number of new features, such as satellite navigation. So the question arises, is the car actually more expensive or is it a different car? So what they are saying is still what we're talking about. So, for example, a car, they use the car. The price of a car might have increased by $100 from the one of last year. It would have increased maybe because the quality of the car has changed. So the question is, the increase now, does it reflect the car or is it still the same car? If it's still the same car, then there's inflation. But if other features have been added to that car, maybe it warrants to increase the price. So these are criteria government will put into consideration when they want to set for inflation. Clear?
Yes.
A second reason is that a slight rise in prices can provide some benefits. It can encourage producers to increase their output, as they may think that higher prices will lead to higher profits. It can also enable firms to cut their wage costs by not raising wages in line with inflation. So the alternative to such a move might be a cut in employment. The solution for inflation is reducing employment. For inflation to reduce in an economy, you have to reduce inflation. Or you have to reduce employment. Because as soon as the more people get job, the more the income level increases, the more demand in the economy increases, leading to demand pull inflation. Do you get it?
Yes.
So increase in price is good for firms because it's an incentive for them to produce more. Why would they want to produce more? Because they know that when they increase the prices, there's possibility for them to make higher profits. Do you get it?
Yes.
Okay. So government also try to avoid the fall in price level if it is caused by a fall in aggregate demand. This is because it could result in a decline in output and a rise in unemployment. Government also would think about not allowing prices to fall. It said government also try to avoid a fall in the price level if it is caused by a fall in aggregate demand. So disequilibrium.
Yeah. You know, yeah, the one that it's if you're under it, it will be illegal or something like that. You lower the cost.
When you lower the cost.
No, when you lower the price of that product, it will be illegal, something like that.
You're talking about
Equilibrium. Something.
no, it's not equilibrium.
It's
Market setting the market price. It's about the ceiling price, where you cannot charge more above or charge below the equilibrium.
yes.
So, but here what they're saying is, if a fall in price, government doesn't want a fall in price.
Yes.
If it's as a result of a fall in aggregate demand, because if there's a fall in aggregate demand, it means demand in the economy is falling. So that's the why that if prices would fall as a result of that, the government would not want it.
Yes.
Please try to get what the picture here. The picture is that government would avoid a fall in price if it's as a result of a fall in aggregate demand. So that means there's a fall in aggregate demand that make firms to think about reducing the price. It is not good for the economy, because at the end of it all, firms will be running at a loss. There won't be incentive for them to produce more. Output in that economy will fall. Firms wouldn't have any other choice than to lay off workers. Unemployment will increase. Is it clear?
Yes.
So I think that is clear.
Yes.
Okay. So go to balance of payments. For balance of payments, we're talking about a record of revenue received from selling exports and its expenditure in income. So what goes out, the records of your import and your export is within the balance of payments. So government wants to ensure that your export does not exceed your imports. Well, export exceeding import is fine, but your import exceeding your export, your import exceeding your export means a deficit for your business, for your country. So government would not want it. So government wants a balanced payment, balance of payments. I think that is clear. So the reason is this: if the expenditure of import exceeds revenue from export for a long period of time, the country will be living beyond its means and will get into debt. So if you continue to import more than export, you'll be running on deficit. That means you are living beyond your means. You are not living within the means you have. That is what they are saying there.
Yes.
So, okay. Then what are the criteria? While government usually aim for export revenue to equal import expenditure, they may not be concerned if there is a surplus of export revenue over import expenditure, or a deficit of export revenue, provided that this is of a small amount or if it lasts a short period of time. There may be a move to a deficit caused by an increase in the import of raw materials and capital goods. This is unlikely to be a cause of concern, as the product purchase may increase the economy's ability to produce more goods and services to sell at home and abroad. Short-term deficits and surpluses may also arise from fluctuations in income at home and abroad. The criteria for balance of payments is this: government doesn't care when sometimes import increases more than export, especially if it is for raw materials. You need more raw materials to provide goods and services to produce. Yes or no? So maybe in the course of buying more raw materials, you'll be able to sell more finished goods. So that will cover up for that deficit. So government will not care.
Yes.
Another reason why we could have deficit is a fall in income from abroad. Maybe my income level reduces here. So I won't be able to import from abroad, from other countries. And if the income level falls in my country too, they won't be able to export. So this could be as a result of a deficit in the balance of payments. Clear?
Yes.
Redistribution of income. So when we talk about distribution of income, we're talking about reducing the gap between the rich and the poor. Are you there?
Yes. Yes.
So the government may seek to redistribute income for the rich to the poor. The more money someone has, the less they tend to appreciate each unit. So a rich person with an income of this, $10,000 a week, is unlikely to miss $10, but the sum would make a huge difference for someone currently struggling on the $20 a week. So government distributes income by taxing and spending. The rich are taxed more than the poor. Some of the money raised is spent directly on the poor by means of benefits such as housing, unemployment. Other forms of government expenditure, such as that on education or health, particularly benefit the poor. Without the government providing these services free of cost, or at a subsidized price, the poor may not find them accessible. This is what we call merit goods. So redistribution of income is done by government to be able to provide or produce merit goods. Goods that without government helping to produce them, it cannot be accessible to poor people. So government wants to reduce the gap between the rich and the poor. And the only way to do that is to tax more to the rich and to spend more on the poor. I think that is clear.
Yes.
So what is the reason to do this? The reason is that to reduce income inequality, to reduce poverty. Clear?
Yes.
What are the criteria government would use when government wants to set income redistribution? Government are unlikely to aim for a perfectly equal distribution of income. This is because people have different needs. It is also because taxing the rich too heavily and providing too generous benefits may act as a disincentive to effort and enterprise. Government would not want, there's no way government will balance income. There's no way government would equal income. Because if government try to do that, it becomes a disincentive. People would not want to work because they know government will pay them unemployment benefit. The rich are being taxed so much, they will leave your country for other countries. So enterprise will fall. Do you get it?
Yes,
so government have to think well, because this could lead to government failure. So government would ensure that the redistribution of income does not affect the rich and the poor. Is it clear?
Yes.
So this is where we stop for today.